Today, we are talking trades, all involving 2027 firsts. These things are gold in the market. They're hard to buy, and that creates an opportunity potentially to sell. So, what we want to dive into today is, are we buying? Are we selling for these players? We're going to dissect two things straight up, this player or the pick, and the potential power of this 2027 first in a tier up or a tier down, depending on what your team's needs are. Just to look at real trades. Everything we're doing is from dynastydaddy.com. These are real trades from real leagues where people are playing. This isn't just our hypothetical ideas. David, you've moved a lot less firsts than I have. How have you been treating these 27 firsts so far before we hop into trades for about 45 minutes?
In general, I don't like to trade picks too far out. I like to keep my flexibility. Obviously, sometimes I will, but this class, especially knowing the value of it, I definitely want some picks. But I also know in season having that 27 first for my competitive teams, I'm going to be able to plug a hole if I really need to. So I've actually only traded one so far, and it's on a team I'm trying to make competitive, and is probably actually not going to win a championship this year. It's just a really good deal. So I'm still willing to move them. I'm not really looking to do it. I want to save that till in season and really only trade it if I absolutely have to.
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. It's got to be a good deal. The whole premise of what I want to get at today is I think that there are opportunities when you can get what I personally at least consider is enough value to make moving this incredibly flexible pick in some of your leagues. There are players that I think it's worth trading a late, a mid, potentially an early first for, as long as it's not the 101, unless you're really getting up there. Jeremiah is that good. So that's, I think, what we want to get at today is just hopping into trades and saying on the screen here, this is a trade from a Dynasty Daddy League, Chase Brown for a 2027 first. We're going to first set the line at this is a late first. David, is this something where you think you're getting enough value moving a late first for Chase Brown today?
So obviously in this situation, I have to be competing. Otherwise, why would I be spending my first for a running back? I think if I truly am competing and I really feel like my lineup needs one more heavy hitter, I would be open to doing this because I think it's good value. I like Chase Brown. I think at this point in the season, though, we're right about to start point scoring season. Most people have already made the moves they want to make. Probably okay to wait until in season and really save this 27 first, so you absolutely have to trade it. That being said, it's good value. I'm not against making this move. I think this will be a common theme today. I would just preach patience with these 27 firsts for your competitive teams. You're going to be able to get a really good piece in season if you do have to move it. So whether it's Chase Brown or someone else, you'll probably be able to find that 15 points per game at running back. So I'm on the fence at late. If I have multiple firsts, I'm a lot more willing to do it, though.
Yeah, I do think in a lot of very, very active leagues, which we're in some very active leagues, I think you're right that a lot of people have already pivoted, made their moves, moved their 27 firsts, or moved their running backs if they're really looking to. But I do think there's a very large demographic of leagues that are becoming very active because it's redraft season and now people are starting a redraft league. Or I should go look at all my dynasty leagues. I've been getting a lot more trade offers than I was 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, even last week. I'm getting more this week than I did. I think if I am contending as well, I'm willing to take this. I have a contending league where I've got too many RBs, and I don't, even though I really could benefit from moving an RB for a first in that league, I'm not sure I want to move Chase Brown for a first that I think is truly late because I just think he's the second best running back on my team, most likely to be a hammer. That league specifically, start nine. Context can matter for things, of course, but it's hard to sell him for a 27 first unless I'm rebuilding. We talked before the show. If you are rebuilding, absolutely sell Chase Brown for any 27 first. But if I'm not rebuilding, if I'm contending and I'm just looking to liquidate one of my running backs for flexibility, Chase Brown is a hard one to do for a late first. And for that reason, I think, like you said, it is good value. So if it's a mid first, David, just real quick, say it's a mid first in this hypothetical. It's not your first. You have two firsts. One of them is mid. That's the only one they'll take for Chase Brown. You've shopped for other running backs. Any chance you're moving that mid first for Chase Brown Let's say you just need one more starter, start 11 to really feel like you have that hammer.
This is what you need. You've shopped around. You have an extra first. Like, all right. In this specific situation, that's the situation where you would be okay doing that, I think. I don't love spending a mid 27 first at this point. Maybe there's other things I can do, but if I have indeed shopped around, this is the best offer I feel I can get. And I want to add one more heavy hitter, whether it be a running back or another position to my lineup right now. Getting a bye week's important, right? Starting off early. There's nothing wrong with wanting to have a strong start to your season. Yeah, in that situation, I do it. It's a pretty specific situation, but it's not unreasonable.
Yeah, we talked into that pretty specific situation when we were talking through the show sheet at the beginning. We were talking through it. So we worked that situation up ahead of time of where we'd have to get to be comfortable with it's a random 27 first. This could go either way. This could be the 104. It could be the 110, right? It's probably not the 101, 102, 103 because so many people are tanking hard. I got a couple interesting questions. If this is a 27 first, a late 27 first, my very first question for you, David, is do you prefer a late 27 first to Quinshon Judkins if you are rebuilding? Judkins a young RB who's shown he can do things. I'm just curious about that, first of all.
I'll take the pick in that situation. It's a lot more stable of an asset, obviously, which always gets talked about. I like Judkins as a prospect. I think long term he might be all right. We don't expect this Browns offense to be very good this year. So I don't know that he's really going to gain value. He might sustain his value. He might be around this same value next year, but I don't think he's a guy who's going to climb up to certainly not tier 1, maybe not even tier 2. So just because of that Browns offense mostly, I'm definitely going to take the pick.
So based on the fact that you colored the ugly Browns offense, right? You're not paying the late 27 first on a contender for Judkins because you don't necessarily think he's a hammer. Am I correct there?
I don't think he's a hammer. I think this is an odd situation because I think in a vacuum, Judkins probably more valuable than Chase Brown. I think that is how the market would say. Pretty close, but Judkins younger. In this situation where we're talking about spending a 27 first, I'm coming from the mindset of a competitor. I'd rather have Brown on a competitive team than just. So I'd rather spend the first from a competitive perspective on Brown. So a very similar feeling, like you're going to back me into a corner again. If you want to do that, I'll probably end up saying yes eventually. But most of the time, I'm still going to hold on to this first here.
Okay, for me, my hard fast line is if there's any chance it misses the playoffs, I'm probably taking that first over Judkins. But if I think there's no world in which this first misses the playoffs, it could be the 7-8, right? They could lose in the first round of the playoffs. They're not a super team. I think I'm willing to trade my first for Judkins on the chance that he's actually more productive than we think is the worst case scenario for him. And just worst case scenario, I have a startable RB all year that also will be startable for 3 more years, is young. So I think a late first, the values on the Judkins side is for me. And I think you identified the values there too. Just you'd go a bunch of other ways first for the production, more so than the value. I don't think I would buy Judkins on a rebuilder for the 27 first, even though I do think the value might be there. Again, just from a fact that, of course, value of not having the points is more important. Next trade gonna go to here. 27 first or Zay Flowers. Is there any world in which you think Zay Flowers is worth more than a late first, so you would take that on a rebuilder just because you think it's a value? I can't imagine.
I would prefer Flowers in any situation.
That's just a change of pace from recent off seasons. That contract do it for you, or was it the actual points that he scored last year to finish 7th overall, even if it was a weak points per game?
It was a very weak 7th overall wide receiver finish. But look, he's just been consistent his whole career. I know the touchdown upside is really limited because of his size, because of Lamar Jackson, because of Derrick Henry right now. But I think the market is to the point where he's got a lot of insulation to his value. He's a very good player. You're going to be confident starting him every week. You're hoping that first turns into Zay Flowers, unless it's an early first, and of course you're hoping for more. But at this point in his career, he's still got several years left in his prime. He's the guy there. What more do you need to see before you trust him over that first?
Okay, so
now that being said, early first is different.
Then
I would say middle first probably if we're trying to hone in on it.
We are not selling him for a late 27 first because we think he's worth more than that. We'd probably need something on top of that. If it's truly late, there's no chance of this making the playoffs. If they think it's late, but we think it's random, I think I'd sell Zay Flowers for I see a world where this is the 104, 105. I'm probably willing to sell him if I know I'm not contending this year, even though he's still on the younger side. And then the second statement is I'm I feel like I'm probably willing to trade a random 27 first that I don't think is early for Zay Flowers because I think he has hammer potential. Tell me if you disagree with either of those two statements.
I really don't. I think for him to actually be a hammer, he's going to need to get more touchdowns. Just that's the end of the discussion. I know there's a lot of variance with touchdowns, whatever. His whole career, he has underperformed there. It's probably more of a role and situation thing than it is just bad luck at this point. But he's a very good player. That doesn't mean he's not going to be very impactful on a championship run. So yeah, I would trade a random 27 first, even if I don't know how weak my last flex spot would have to be for me to not consider it, or how strong it would have to be for me to not consider it. Like, if I'm trying to be patient with my 27 first, I like Zay Flowers. If I'm competing in a league we are in together and I've got a competitive 27 first and you want to trade me Zay Flowers for it, go ahead and send the offer. Let's do it.
On the same page there. Really just it's a fun value rise for him because he seemed to be typecast somewhere else. I don't actually know what to set the bar as here because to be honest with you, I feel like a late 27 first is too low, but I feel like there's a 50% chance that 6 weeks into this season, Jordan Love has fallen into the same range as CJ Stroud. Just fantasy mediocrity, right? Where honestly, he's just a QB2 forever. So, David, if I'm not contending, if I'm going through a rebuild, should I take a late 27 first for Jordan Love? Is my first question.
That is a difficult question. I would say probably not. I think you can get more. And I think worst case, you can still probably get a future first, even if it's not 27. Maybe you got to get a 28 first. You take a 1-year hit on the year of the pick. But I don't think he's going to dip below this value. I don't know that maybe he won't gain the value, like you said. This offense certainly likes to run the ball. They like to control the clock. The fantasy production is limited just in how they operate in general. So I get that. But I just don't see him not ever. I don't see him being worth less than a first for several years. So I would wait on this for late, certainly.
For mid, I guess I would posit the same question. I think mid, I'm starting to consider taking it. It just depends on how many years out I am from contending at that point.
I think for mid, we're having a different conversation because we feel very good about the top of this class, and we also like the depth. So that typically means we're going to have a strong middle of our first round. You're probably going to be able to replace him at quarterback or trade that pick for something of value similar or better. Maybe you ask, can you get a throw-in piece? Can you get an extra third or a handcuff running back that you might be able to sell in season when his starter goes down for a week or two? Something like that with a mid first, I'm probably accepting on a rebuild for sure.
Now, talking about buying him, I think we both agree a late first. If we need quarterback, we're paying a late first for Jordan Love. I am. Any disagreement, David?
Late first, certainly. I'd probably throw in. There's a weird line between the really crappy old quarterbacks that are starting and the bottom end of the guys with some dynasty value. Sure, I'll throw in Geno or an Aaron Rodgers or whatever, but would you throw in Daniel Jones with a late first? Probably not,
I'm
right?
not even sure how far the delta is between Jordan Love and Daniel Jones once Daniel Jones is actually starting and healthy.
But how many is there a better example you can think of between the Geno Smiths and Aaron Rodgers and then the rest of the pack?
Malik Willis, maybe? I don't know. I think he has less dynasty value, but I don't even know. To be honest with you,
Yeah. Prefer Willis in the first, right?
quarterback is ugly after a certain point for sure. So then if we know we probably feel like we'd be okay adding something, and I'm not saying I'd add Willis to the 27 first. I'm just saying there's not really much between Willis, maybe you could say Stafford, and then just the abyss, right? Is I think the point you're getting at these players that they have some value either because they're producing or we think they could produce or they're youngish.
An interesting thought from a competitive perspective. If you could turn Love into Stafford in a late 27 first for a little flexibility, I feel like that's a smart move
I would
too.
absolutely smash that in my if I'm not at all considering rebuilding anytime soon, I don't mind the fact that the 27 first helps a little bit, but yeah, I'm happy to do that. I might honestly consider doing that in any league, to be honest, if I'm rebuilding or contending. because I do think you could probably move Stafford or something. Just know your league isn't active enough. You know you can move Stafford for at least a 27-second as well. Last question, just 27 first. It's mid, David. Are you potentially paying a mid 27 first for Love, or are you aiming higher at that point?
I'll shop around a little bit first, but yeah, if I need a quarterback at this point in the season, I still need my quarterback too. Yeah,
I think that's fair.
that's about the cost of doing business.
I don't feel good about it, but I think it's fair. Now moving on to some young wide receivers. Curious, I saw this pop up a couple times. Casey Concepcion or a 27 first. If it's a late first of all, I think I might be willing to make this move if it's a late first and it's not mine, because I think I might like Concepcion later than a late first if it's a late first. Curious if you have a differing opinion there.
I am really on the fence because if you're competing, I think you can do better for your roster with more certain points. And if you're rebuilding, you don't really want Concepcion's points on your roster. Even if this is somebody else's first, it's a late first, still the same situation. I like Concepcion as a prospect. I'm going to lean back on this Browns answer. I just don't see that Browns offense being very good. I don't know that I would make this move. Also, if I'm competing though and I have Concepcion, I don't know that I'm selling him for 27 first just to liquidate him. I think late first is probably around the fair value. So it really will depend on your team context for me.
Yeah, I think it's a fair price.
But I'm not going.
I think it's a fair price point as a late first. I don't think there's any world in which a mid first for Concepcion is worthwhile. I'd absolutely smash getting a random first from somebody who thinks Concepcion is going to do something. Take that 10 times out of 10, run to the bank if that team might miss the playoffs. And then I just don't think that really, I think you're probably right that there's not, you outlined it. If you're contending, buy a contending piece. If you're rebuilding, don't buy points because he's going to score points, right? If your league is like best ball scoring for draft picks, he hurts you, right? So I think you outlined it great. I don't think Concepcion, but let's make it a little more tempting with Tyson and a random 2027 first. Are you buying Tyson for that? And does it necessarily even matter if you're contending or not, David?
It matters to a degree, but also I'm a big Jordan Tyson fan, as he's been looking really good in camp. For a mid that's not my own and I'm not rebuilding, somebody else's first, I think I'm doing it either way. If I'm competing and I've got somebody else's first and I can use a mid first to get Tyson, if I'm rebuilding and it's not my first, like I said, yeah, give me Jordan Tyson there on all ends.
I think I stand there too. And I honestly think like a mid first that like you can color this as, hey, look, they have these aging players. CMC just had a soft tissue ish scare today. Like this first, sell your story a little bit. Don't sell it to me because that annoys the crap out of me, but I do it. But other people should do it to me. But make your story a little bit, right? Just say, hey, this is an earlier first. You just drafted Tyson because you earned him. I'm trying to help you get Jeremiah Smith. I think it works for both of us. And I think you can make that happen. And I think it's good value if you can, for sure. And I think we have maybe one or two more trades. 2027 first. Are you paying a mid first for Rashee Rice? I guess this is just a vote of confidence on Rice almost. I'm doing a late first for Rice if I'm contending, David. Tell me if you disagree with that, and then the mid first question as well.
I think you have to do a late first if you're contending just because of the upside. There's nobody else there still. You still think when he's healthy and at full speed, he's going to be a hammer. What his future is like, nobody knows. For a late first, I'm willing to do a 1-year rental on a hammer on a competitive team, especially because there's additional potential past that 1 year. I don't love it. I don't want to buy Rashee Rice. I'm not spending anything over a late first, and I'm very hesitantly doing my late first. I don't want him on my rosters. He's so volatile as a human being, as an athlete. We don't know where he's going to be. I hope he gets his stuff together and he has a long NFL career, and the people that bought him low over this course are very happy about it because I root for the human to get his crap together. But I don't want the risk on my team. Every time something happens, it's, oh, is he worth a second? It's like, geez. So next time something happens, are you going to even be able to sell him for anything? His leash is pretty much gone, right? He has no value insulation, in my opinion. And for that reason, I'm keeping my first.
I think I agree.
Unless it's like I said, unless it's late and I'm competing and then I really have to.
I think I agree with both those points. A late first is definitely a fair price point for him. It's good value for him, honestly, if you are contending. And I think the mid first, it's just not insulated. And I think you could go some more insulated with a maybe not the same potential ceiling, but Rice isn't even fully healthy, so who knows how he's going to come into the season, et cetera, right? There's been a lot of speculation about that. And I think you might be able to go some other directions, right? We see Nico Collins for a 27 first. If this is again a truly random first, David, do you prefer the Collins direction to the Rice direction? Do you actually consider a random 27 first for Collins where you wouldn't for Rice?
I definitely would. Nico scares me for more superstitious reasons, so I'll try to leave those to the side. I For some reason there's certain players that I'm just like, oh, I'm out on this guy, even if they start proving me wrong, and then I finally am like, okay, I'm gonna get in on this guy, and then that's a terrible season for them. That's what happened with Nico Collins. I finally decided to buy in. He started to fall apart a little bit after his breakout. So I regret it personally, but that shouldn't cloud my advice. He's absolutely worth a mid first. He still has absolute hammer potential in that offense. I think if you listen to Matt Harmon at Reception Perception at all, he's outlined a few very bullish cases for him. Aiden Higgins starts playing X a little bit more. You start moving Nico around a little bit, getting him some easier looks, maybe some more designed targets. You get some of the easy stuff on top of what we already know he can do in the middle and down the field. I don't know how high I'd go on him. Probably a little less than I used to, but a mid first on a competitive team, you betcha.
And I think there's other names we could throw out here that a mid first can touch. I think mid first, mid late-ish maybe is what you're paying. Let's say a mid first for Garrett Wilson, David, just 20 seconds. Is that something you'd consider over Rice for sure too?
I would prefer Garrett Wilson to Rashee Rice, but I still probably prefer. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it in most cases. He's around Nico Collins. Similar
All
case.
right. Thought it might be.
Different
So
reason.
just yeah, better directions than Rashee Rice for that mid first, but late first was a fair price. And last one that I saw, I don't even know where a first can be. I feel like we're both going to absolutely say 100% smash a mid first. So let's outline it as an early non 101 first. You know, there's this team that the only way they don't get the 101 is if somebody cheats, like with commissioner powers to assign them other players that score points off of waivers or something retroactively. You know, the cap is 102. What are you doing, David? And you are contending.
Yeah, I think it was like 102 to 105. I'm contending. I don't love my quarterback situation. Let's do it. No hesitation. If it's 101, there's a ton of hesitation. I'm probably not doing it. Now, you blend that, how much of a chance at 101 before I'm going to keep the pick? I don't know. It'd have to be one of the 2 or 3 favorites for 101 for me to want to keep the pick, I think. Not just have a very outside shot at it.
And I do think there's a team where you can say, hey, I own Jimmy's first. They just added Jeremiah Love and they had the 101, but there's another team that like angled strategically to obviously have the inside track on the 101. I think you might be able to sell that. This now maybe it's the 103, 104 because they just drafted Love. They're trying to contend, but people still view them as like one of the worst teams of the league. I think you have a very strong case to get some really good value on Hurts because people are lower on him for a multitude of reasons. Some of them are valid, but I think for fantasy, he's still going to be good for a while. So I think he's a great target, personally, someone I'm very interested in buying. I also agree that if it is the 101, I'm okay. I'm out.
One more thing on Hurts. I don't think this is getting talked about enough. People keep talking about how he's trending downwards, but they finally brought in an offense that's supposed to make life easier on a quarterback. Aren't we a little excited about that? Like, I know he lost AJ Brown, but he still has some good weapons around him. He still has not the same line, but it's still a decent line. Like, I think he could actually have a pretty good season this year. I think he's a good buy.
I've obviously, like we said, the 101. That's different. We had a Devi startup where JP took him in a Devi startup, mind you, before Malik Neighbors. I think it was like the 108, 109. Like there is that sort of valuation with that pick. So like that's a different thing, right? But I think Hertz 206, 207 startup range is like honestly, he's not going there. He's going in the early third, and that is insane to me. Like just with what he's done in his career. Like a phenomenal value and honestly a steal being able to get him for a let's say lottery early first that's not the 101. Yeah.
Yeah, and for reference in that Devi draft, I think the second Devi player went late 4th. So there's like a 3-round gap between the 101 and the 102 in startup value, and it's early.
But
and that's just one. one thing. It's going to close. That gap
And
will
more
tighten a little
importantly,
bit.
in the
But
context of what you're saying as well, Devi, in that situation, right? The reason if we could have picked the blink at 102, it probably would have went near the end of the second round or even in the mid-second. But having to plant a flag, we can't plant a flag on who that guy is at this point. Moving on,
very good point.
we're going to now start looking at a different archetype of trade. And that archetype is going to be adding a first to consolidate. And we're also going to look at this as a standpoint of would I split this asset for a 27 first and that player? So the very first question, I want to put the price point as a late 27 first in BTJ for T-Mac first. And just give me a 20-second answer.
Yeah, if it was higher than late, I would definitely take the package size. So I think we have to talk late here. I'm taking the package either way. I don't love it. I really like Ted. I like him a lot more than BTJ, but there is a chance BTJ is still a pretty darn good young wide receiver, and you're getting a 27 first.
Yeah, I think I am in the same place as you. I'm just not that convinced that BTJ is worse than T-Mac for fantasy over the next 3 years. I would bet that T-Mac is better than BTJ, but when you put that 27 first on the scale too, even if it's a late 27 first, I'm like, I do think that's enough. So I think I might take David the BTJ side on both a contender and a rebuilder and just see what can I do with that 27 first or something else on my roster to buy Devontae Adams or Debo Samuel or whoever's actually scoring points in season and is gross. Do you agree with that just from a value standpoint?
Yeah, I think BTJ has still just enough of a bull case that's hitting that ceiling that this is a very good process trade no matter what your situation is.
And then again, mid first, wowzers, let's do it. So I think it's the same answer either way. Interesting. Now we're going to move on to T-Mac or Brian Thomas Jr. in a late 27 first and another 27 first, depending on if we're spidering these trades or spiraling them into each other. But so T-Mac, and I think for this one, I personally think for this one, it's got to be T-Mac and a mid 27 first or Malik Neighbors to have an interesting line conversation here. And I think I'm going to go Neighbors almost universally, unless that's my mid 27 first. And then I'm just worried it might end up being early.
Yeah, if it's my first and it's mid or early, I think I probably got to hold on to it. But if it's a disposable first or my first and I'm a playoff team, certainly I feel like I'm a playoff team. Maybe you earned the 102 and you're turning it into a contender. This is one of those moves you make to do it because somebody still values that first early. But I don't know. I've seen the highlights in the camp. I know they're just camp highlights. I get it. Don't overreact. But Neighbors looks like he's going to go week one to me. I don't know if he's going to be 100% week one, but certainly you think mid-season going into the playoff stretch for fantasy, as long as he stays healthy through the season, which is a question mark for everyone. Yeah, I think he's going to return to dominance. And he was on pace to be wide receiver one before that ACL tear. So wide receiver one overall. And I think he still very much could take that crown.
Honestly, he is talented enough to start slow for 3 or 4 weeks and still finish number one overall. I wouldn't bet on that happening because you have to have such a great second half, but he's got the physical. That's what it is. Like, he's just different. Moving on to our next little package up. Chris Olave, I think I need to set the line at a late 27 first. Chris Olave in a late 27 first or Sedarius Lamb.
I think you definitely have to set it late because I don't imagine a situation where I wouldn't prefer Olave in that first. They're both old enough that neither is a truly young guy anymore. CeeDee Lamb's probably going to outscore Olave, but the word probably in there, I'm getting a first. Yeah, give me Olave in the first pretty much universally.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I think I agree with that one there. I think if I can't imagine any world that I'm adding that first to Olave to go get Lamb. I can't imagine a world where I'm adding that first to Amon-Ra or Jettas to get to the tier of players that Lamb is in. So I think unless I'm trying to add a first to Olave to get to Neighbors or above, yeah, I think you got to go the way you said. I think you spelled it out pretty simply. Speaking of this tier of players, but a less proven Saints player, Jordan Tyson. And let's just set the line at a late 27 first again. Jordan Tyson in a late 27 first or Amon-Ra St. Brown. And let's look at it from a contending team because I think there's no way we're consolidating those assets on a rebuilder.
Yeah, you're not making this move on a rebuilder, especially if that's your first. If I'm competing, again, maybe that situation I earned the 103, 104, wherever I took Tyson, but I feel like my team's on the up. I'm starting to compete. I feel like I'm actually going to be a good team this year. Maybe I want to use my first before I get off to that hot start. I think it'll be 4-1 or 5-2, 6-2, whatever. At that point, that's a late 27 first that you're spending. You're trying to get out in front of this, use it as a mid first or something. I think this is a pretty good move. I'm just a huge Tyson fan, man. I think I'm keeping the package, but the smart advice probably is go get your hammer in most situations.
I do think, again, the smart advice is go get your hammer in Amun-Ra, but the counterpoint to this is taking Jordan Tyson and the 27 first for Amun-Ra is how you win forever. You have to hit on Tyson. You have to be right that Tyson is that guy, and you need to get a Zay Flowers type of play a circa last offseason, not this offseason, with that pick, right? Like a T. Higgins type, right? A wide receiver 2 type, roughly, or a startable player with that first to really win the deal. But that's not impossible to do. Like, I can't blame you for taking the package from that process side of this is how, even though Amon-Ra might be the better piece to win this year, this is how I still have a shot to win this year, but I'm maybe the favorite for a long time.
I do think this partially at least falls into your like 80-20, 90-10, whatever rule. Most of the time I'm going to follow the process, but every now and then I'm going to allow a player take to come in. For me, I've always been a huge Jordan Tyson fan through this entire process. Now seeing what he looks like in an NFL uniform against NFL DBs, I know it's just camp. I don't want to trade him away. I'm going to be stubborn with him. I do support moving this package for Amon-Ra, though, if you're looking for advice. But if you feel like me and you love Jordan Tyson, let's go ahead and hang on to him. And
I will also say a start 9 or a start 8 type of league where you don't have as many starters and hammers are more important. I think we both lean stronger to the Amon-Ra side and are probably taking that unless you are very thin. But in a start 11, I think maybe I lean the start 11, start 12, or best ball league. I think the Tyson side becomes much more appealing, and David's process might actually lean that way in those more profitable for depth type of formats. Next one here, Puka Nacua, or this year's typical 102, Carnell Tate, and let's say an early first. So we have 2 early firsts or Puka Nacua. If you are rebuilding, or if you are contending, and you somehow have Carnell Tate and a early first next year too, which it happens, and you're going into contention, you know you're a serious contender, and Puka you think just puts you over the limit. Where are you at?
yeah, this one of those, same for the, like we were talking about for her, it's non-101 early firsts. Is that what we're talking about here?
Same from the Hertz conversation.
Yeah, I'm taking Puka. If I feel like this is a decent chance at the 101, I will consider it. If I feel like it's a lock for the 101, I'm definitely not doing it. But even if it's 50-50, I'm thinking long and hard. If I'm competing, I'm probably still doing it because we talk about Puka. We typically say you're going to have to spend about 3 firsts, and one of them is going to have to be a good first. That's, you could call Tate 2 firsts, and then the 27 a good first. You call Tate a good first, and the early 27 2 first. However you want to break it down. In that situation, we're looking at about a fair trade. If I'm competing, I much prefer Puka to his value.
Yeah, and I do think there's worlds where this is an early 27 first. I might know it's not Jeremiah Smith, but they can't tell me that it doesn't have a chance at Jeremiah Smith. They might, but this is a bad team. This is one of the basement dwellers. You have a shot at Jeremiah Smith and you get Carnell Tate. I think some people are just going to be like, oh, that's a bad team. That's Tate. Worst case scenario, it's 102s in back-to-back years. Let's go with that way. It's fun. So I think this can get done, and I think it's a good way to get some value. Next thing we're going to look at
You doing that? I was just going to say, now from the reverse perspective, you have Puka. Maybe you realize you just took over an orphan, you need to rebuild it, whatever, and you're getting another 27 first that gives you additional chance at Jeremiah. You splitting it
if
this
I
way?
have my 27 first and I'm accruing a second early 27 first and I'm getting Tate,
Yep.
it needs to have the added caveat for me then of helping me get my 27 first. Say Puka is, if I genuinely now have the inside track to Smith, then I'd consider doing this. Yeah. But it has to be that perfect storm of shit context for me to consider it. And then we're going to move on to some quarterback trades. So Caleb Williams or Jordan Love. And let's start it at a mid 27 first. Just curious. David, you can't tell me you're taking the Bear. I won't know who you are anymore.
You have to. He's going late first, early second, late
Yep.
first in most startups that I've seen, but some late seconds certainly. Jordan Love, we're talking, what, fourth, fifth round
Mhm.
maybe in startups. So just straight value wise.
Push it up.
Go
Push
ahead.
it up to early 27 first then, but the same Hertz context, it's not the 101.
At that point, I feel like you need to be confident that Caleb is going to be the long term hammer QB, whether he's ever the top 4 pick, a tier 1 quarterback lock kind of thing, or if he's just going to live in that tier 2. I think even that is an acceptable outcome for that trade. Uh, I don't know. Maybe it's the Packer fan in me. I feel like he's going to regress a little bit from a fantasy perspective in our eyes. So for an early first, I think I'm going to keep the package, but I still understand the value. I don't believe Caleb Williams is going to grow in value for where he's at. I think he's got his ceiling.
But if he maintains the back end of the first in value, think where we were often seeing Lamar, occasionally Hurts, Burrow, like when Burrow was young, and he's still up there, but he's more of a second rounder now. But that value range, and I'm telling you, it's the 102 or 103 next year in Love, but there's no way it's the 101. It seems like decent value, but yeah.
Look, I wouldn't be against making that trade. I think you brought up Burrow. If he turns into Burrow, I'm happy with that result for sure. If he turns into Herbert, you probably blew your first there. And they had very similar situations earlier in their career. First year playing Dynasty, I think Herbert was the consensus like 102, 103. I feel like Caleb is more in that category of like really good NFL player, but not going to be the consistent fantasy stud at quarterback that like the difference between him and the rest of the pack isn't going to be enough for me to want to spend that early first.
All right. Understand where we're coming from there. I think I more or less agree. An early first is hard to do just because it's such a conviction bet. And I do think that you're right. If you're right, you're paying roughly what the value is. I'd much rather keep Love and see if I can move that early first for Hertz in the earlier situations, see what else I can do otherwise first, or move Love for Stafford in a first, like you suggested earlier, right? Is that something I can do to get more production than what I think Love is giving me as well? So I think there's a lot of other directions you can go that might be potentially better ceilings. Next trade here, Roma Dunze and we have some Luther Burden issues, right? Groin injury, but I think he's supposed to be healthy by week 1. Roma Dunze as himself is probably about a mid first, I think, a 27 mid first. So I think to make it Jeremiah Love, I feel like we've got to say a early first, but that seems like too much, and a mid first seems like too little. So let's say a first that is not going to be the 101 or 102, barring catastrophe, but it's early.
I like how much context you had to put around this one, but I think I agree with it, right? If you feel like the first is missing the playoffs for sure, just hang on to it in this situation. Roma Dunze was off to a very good start last year. I made some comment about his foot, but he looks fine. I think we're going to all three, Odunze, Burden, and Loveland, as fantasy assets. I think they might disappoint a little as far as value, especially how high Burden's climbed, how high Loveland has climbed. I think they're going to eat into each other a little bit, but they're all going to be very good assets still. They're all very young. This offense might be the best in the league this year. Certainly their passing attack has a chance to be the best passing attack in the league. So yeah, I think process, I'll take Rome in the first, unless if there's a chance it's non-playoff, I'm going to take the package. If it's probably mid or later,
Even truly mid,
I don't know. Maybe,
like
yeah,
I'm
all right,
just
fine. This one's really tough. I think mid is fair, but if I've got a chance at a 102, 103, and this one's tough because Love's in a really difficult situation
yeah.
too. Like that Carolina offense is going to be bad. He's probably not going to have a great year. He's still going to retain his value. I'm not worried about Love dropping in value massively, even with a terrible season.
It's
All right, I'm talking myself back into Love on the mid first for sure, but early first, I'll take
a
the
mid first,
package.
like it's a very interesting situation that we are
Yeah,
in.
mid first, I'll take Love. I think that's the
And
tipping point. I got
it's
myself
a
there.
difficult buy too for a multitude of reasons, right? Love is not necessarily a contending buy, right? Just like Genti was not a contending buy last year. Bijan and Gibbs weren't really great contending buys their rookie seasons. Running backs coming into awful situations often are RB2s, right? This type of RB that we think he's in the same pedigree of, they've struggled in this type of situation. Maybe Love is different, but there's a lot of competition there as well. So you're moving 2 mid firsts for a running back that's not a contending asset. It's hard to do, but I do think the value is there because I think he's still gonna be just where Janty is with even mediocrity, right? RB2, but like some decent flashes, and the efficiency's not horrible, even though the offensive line was bad and the offense was bad. So if there's enough things that people can latch onto, which I think there will because Love is that good, I think you're gonna not be mad that you did it. But it's a weird situation simply because it's not a contending buy. And I think you're lying to yourself if you're telling yourself that Love is a contending buy. He's a I hope that he gets me RB15. I'd be happy with that. RB12, RB14, RB15, not difference making, but I expect him to just be an RB2. So I think we are running.
Yeah, and then going forward, Love has massive upside. So you're really just making the bet that he will be a hammer.
Yeah, it's definitely that hammer long term bet.
Yeah.
And let's look at another hammer bet that I think has a higher chance of paying off this year. And that is Hampton or Mackay Lemon. And I'm just gonna do the same thing and say, let's set the bar at a mid first and then tell me early but not 101 first after that. I feel like it's the same in between uncomfortable spot.
This is a very similar trade. Yeah. I think we have a little more clarity. There's not a ton of clarity for that whole Chargers offense right now, but we feel pretty darn confident that Hampton is going to be a big part of what they're doing. So I feel good that he is going to be maybe not a true league winner, but still a very impactful hammer level player, like 18, 16 points per game, somewhere in there probably. Lemon's not going to contribute to your competitive roster like that. You're mid first. Now maybe you go by Chase Brown. You hit Chase Brown and Mackay Lemon. Is that better than just Amari and Hampton? I think I might try for something like that first, to be honest, because I think there's a realistic chance you get that done and you still have Mackay Lemon in your back pocket long term. But if I'm going hammer hunting, I'm not afraid to spend this price as a mid first. As an early first, I'm taking the package.
If that's not my first and it's a mid first, I might prefer Hampton on a rebuilder and a contender just because I think it's good value for where people are high on Hampton. I've seen him go in front of Janty and Love in startups. Some people absolutely just love what this guy did last year, flashed when healthy, and the improved offensive situation. McDaniels, we like him as an offensive coordinator. It's hard to say here, but I do think with a mid one, I'm taking it either way. If it's a early first, I have to take the Lemon early first though side. I agree with you there. And it's just an interesting draft class. And let's look at one last trade here, and that's going to be Devon Achane. Tough to value him because we wish he still had McDaniels or Henderson. And I'm going to start this one out as a late first. And then I want you to also tell me on a mid first.
Late first, I'm taking a chain pretty much no matter what. Mid first, I think I'm a little more hesitant, but I still like I believe in a chain as a hammer. This Miami's offense is not very good. You normally like a much higher scoring potential from an offense for a running back if you're looking for a hammer. But he's going to get a ton of involvement in the passing game. He just has to. Who else is? I know Malik Willis likes to run too, but who else is he going to throw it to? They're going to have to design touches for a chain in both phases of the game. I still believe in him as a hammer. I am very nervous about Travion Henderson. He has the ceiling of a chain. This could absolutely backfire if Henderson puts it all together, gets the coaches back on his side, takes the job, shows that year one was just weird at times. But when we're talking about this kind of certainty difference, I typically lean towards the hammer. So certainly late, I think mid first even, I'm taking a chain. Now we start to talk about a first that has a decent chance of missing the playoffs. Again, I think we got to go with the value on that side, but man, the difference in what I expect for production between these two, I'm very interested in making a deal like this.
Yeah, I think this is a phenomenal way to go hammer hunting, and I think this is something that is getting done in real leagues, this type of deal. Actually, HN, one of the most common names when I was looking up trades with the 27 first and 3 players involved, tearing up from any running back in this range to HN. It happened all the time.
Do you think the motivation there is people targeting a chain as a buy or people getting cold feet with a chain trying to actively split? I would argue, I bet it's people trying to split.
A wise philosopher once said, "Por qué no los dos?" But I think it's probably more people trying to split, get out of it, say, "Hey, honestly, Henderson's at least in a better offense. They're both similar builds, and the 27 first is the 27 first, even if it's late, even if they're a contender. Or I saw Chase Brown, I saw Judkins, I saw, I want to say a couple other names like Josh Jacobs, even. And it's just, I'm trying to get a contending piece that probably will score the first and get younger because I'm just worried HN is going to, the glory days are gone and he's going to have a bad offense there for long enough that he's never going to actually peak again, but he's just going to be good enough. So it's probably more of the fear, I think, than anything initiating it. But yeah, you think so as well?
That's what I would lean. Yeah, I think that's a good motivator for me to trade is when I get cold feet on a player and I want to replace them or split or whatever, whether it's age, situation changing, whatever. So I would assume that's the case. In this particular trade, though, I don't know what the motivating factor was. Get off of Henderson or get out of HA. Not muted.
They definitely could both be part of it. Henderson's a weird player for sure. I think it's interesting going through all of this. Like, to me, I went into this, I wanted to do this exercise, honestly, to challenge my perception that we should be trying to capitalize and liquidate 27 first, maybe more than we're being told to by a lot of people. I just wanted to go through and look through a lot of trades and see, do I still think that value is maybe worth doing? And I'd say we definitely saw use cases for many of these. I'd say probably about half of them we felt like there's a lot of good value here. And then about half of them we said, we're probably going to just take the 27 first either way. The thing that spoke to me maybe though was there weren't many where I said I'm taking the side that doesn't have the 27 first no matter what. So, like, for me, I'm going through this with I was looking to see, will I get any bias to this gut instinct that I have? And I'm walking away with this without personally having that much bias to the gut instinct. I think there are still situations that can arise where the 27 firsts are worth selling right now, but I don't think that they're as common as I was curious to see if we saw in trade databases.
Yeah, look, I think the process stays the same, right? Be patient with your picks if you're competing. You don't need to rush into things, but when you need to plug those holes, when you need to address those needs, or when you see opportunity to strike, go for it. Just treat the 27 picks with more value because they're more valuable than most first round picks are at this point. One thing I did want to touch on, Justin, we kind of tiptoed around it, but we never directly addressed it. What do you need to get the likely 101? I know that's a really hard thing to do because if you're buying it from someone, let's say you need to get it back. Someone else has your pick, you know you're going to turn it into the 101. You feel very confident as long as you can get it back. And it's still got to be a weird situation to have that kind of build, but you feel like if you can get it back, you're going to get the 101. What are you paying? Are you paying a top, like a 10 to 20 range overall asset?
Amon Ra, Speedy, Jettas, no question. Love, Genty, Hampton, no question. Burrow.
Neighbor, McBride?
If it's non-tight end premium, I'm happy to pay a McBride or a Bowers for it. If it's a tight end premium,
175 though.
if it's a tight end premium, I think I might need a little kickback back. I don't really know. It's getting when we're in the top two tight ends, when we're in Gibbs or Bijan, or we have JSN, Puka, or Neighbors, I'm probably needing a little bit back. I'm like, listen, you're getting the production for a year. You need to pay me for this year of production. Plus, even this player is more valuable than him next year. So I'm probably looking for something that's worth about a first, give or take, or at least a 1-2 swap back at that point. Because you do get a value added. It's not just now I get him. It's also now I have the ability to shamelessly sell every single spot start running back that comes up and all of these other things and accrue value and roster construct in such a way that will get me 2 extra seconds or an extra second and 2/3 over the course of the season. Where otherwise, yeah, what am I going to have to try to do in this situation? So there's stuff to it, but it's not a good situation to be in. My best advice, don't get into that situation, kids.
Yeah, don't trade away a future first so far that you can have terrible teams those years. Sometimes you hit bad luck, but not the 101 bad luck. Don't trade away future 101s.
Unless it's to me. Always acceptable.
Oh, please don't ever trade him future 101s. I hate that.
You love it. All right. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Dyno Construction Podcast. Hope this was helpful to you as it was for us. Would love to hear from you guys in the comments below. I'm actually very curious. Let us know if you found this useful, interesting. And what I'm mostly curious about is would a 27 first episode of trades and buy targets 4 weeks into the season and 2 weeks before the trade show, something like that. Is this something you want us to do again? Would love to hear that feedback from you guys again. Easy episode to put together, very fun to talk about in my opinion. So thanks for riding it out with us, guys. Let us know where you agree, disagree, and all the other things. Till next time, guys.